Good morning or good day. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, on today's segment of The Power of Money. And as always, I am delighted that you have invited me into your homes, your offices, whatever your venue today. I have a phenomenal show for you, a special show. I will be interviewing a remarkable gentleman on the field of education. He is an educational consultant. He is a young man, and he is a man on a mission. And so I am honored, privileged, and delighted to bring to all of you for the next hour a gentleman, Kobie Wilkerson, who resides in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, to talk with all of us. And I'm going to be listening hard because this young man is so impressive to me. He moves my soul, viewers, and I think you're going to feel the same way. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce him to all of you today. Sit down because you're going to enjoy this show with Kobie Wilkerson, who is just a master in the field of education and educational consulting, and he is concerned about our children. Of course, you know I love children and I love seniors. Those are my two heart spots. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Kobie Wilkerson. And how are you today?
Hey, good morning.
Good to have you here. I so appreciate you coming on my show today to talk about a subject that is so near and dear to me, and certainly so near and dear to you, and that is the subject of our children and education. But before going any further, would you please give our viewers a little bit of information about who you are and why I am so excited to have you in my studio?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh gosh, my honor.
I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Born and raised there. And then shortly after that, I went to Kentucky State University. I always knew that I wanted to work with children, but I thought I was going to be doing something a little bit differently, actually. Originally, I wanted to be a pediatrician. Yeah, so I thought I wanted to do that, but then as I started going and getting ready to go off to college, I realized I really couldn't do it with children what I really wanted to do with them, being a pediatrician. So I switched my major to education.
Okay.
And so at Kentucky State, I majored in education and sociology, and then got a minor in psychology as well.
My goodness.
Yeah, so I graduated there with 2 degrees and a minor, and then shortly after that, I taught kindergarten. So the little ones love that.
Little ones.
Yeah, I had a blast. Learned a lot.
I'm
sure. Learned a lot in that year, and then
I'm sure.
And then went off to Kansas State University and got my master's in education administration. And then shortly after that, I taught kindergarten for 2 years. And then I started my educational consult company, which is Love to Learn Educational Group.
Love to Learn Educational Group. And where is that based out of?
Based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And so our motto is instilling a love of learning in everyone we touch.
Instilling a love of learning in everyone we touch. That's powerful.
It is. It is. I think that I got into consulting because I had the same kind of epiphanies that teachers did, and so my niche in the market is a little different. We would have people come in and do professional development with us and talk to us about, kind of what we should be doing in the classroom and things of that nature, but I saw a gap in that no one would ever kind of come in and show us what to do. And so that is kind of the gap that I feel, actually go into classrooms and do model teaching.
Really?
Yes.
So explain to me how that works.
Well, what I normally would do is try to get what the teachers will be teaching. So their objectives or standards, and actually come in and teach what they would be teaching. Oftentimes you would have some people who would do that, but they would have these, fancy lessons that they would come in and work with. And as a teacher, I'm an educator first. And so concerned about teachers not feeling like they have to make up a day. I would just take what they would be teaching and kind of show them how to teach it. It's not the what you're teaching, it's the how.
So it's not the information, it's how you are transmitting information to young people?
Absolutely. It is, I believe that there are 4 components to achievement.
Okay.
The what is definitely important and a piece of that. But the 4 components are love,
Okay, love,
belief in students,
belief in students,
knowledge of information,
knowledge of information,
and the skills to teach.
and the skills. So when a teacher is in the preparation mode where they're in college and they're developing the skills to teach, hopefully they have a desire to teach, but that's not necessarily always the case. They may view teaching as a good avocation and therefore develop the skill sets. But those other three, would you talk about the love,
Right.
the belief,
And the knowledge of the information.
and the knowledge, so important as well. So you bring those into your model as well when you teach and work with teachers?
Absolutely. We go into the classroom and show them what it actually looks like with their kids.
Oh my goodness. So you actually do what we call a practicum, where they literally watch you do.
Absolutely.
My goodness.
Absolutely.
And can you say with some level of integrity that your presence does create a difference in that classroom environment, the teaching that you show them?
Absolutely. It's one thing for you to come and, tell people about what they, quote unquote, should be doing with their kids. And my belief is if you're going to talk to teachers about teaching, that you should be a master teacher.
I couldn't agree more.
But that's not always the case.
Okay.
And so my motto is that I can show you better than I can tell you.
Well, let's talk about this issue of education and teaching and what I call a major paradigm shift from the old model of you sit there and I tell you to a model that's more interactive and perhaps more challenging for teachers today. Where do you see education today?
Well, education, there's definitely a space for that. I think that what we've come to know throughout the research and studying is that kids learn in a multifaceted of ways. And so that's different for some teachers who are used to a traditional model. And so you have cooperative grouping and, differentiated instruction, and you have all of these terms, and teaching teachers to actually be facilitators.
Facilitators.
Of the knowledge and information, as opposed to, there's a term that they say, the sage on the stage.
Okay.
Where a teacher is just kind of standing in the front of the room and just kind of, dictating everything. Yeah.
Like a symphony?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
And
okay.
so,
but you cannot direct a symphony unless you have been trained to be a good.
Yeah, you got to have an ear for all the other.
Yeah.
Staying with that analogy.
You have to stay. Okay.
Yeah, so you have to have an ear for that. But I think teachers, I'm definitely a pro-teacher. I believe in teachers. There's a lot of, information out there that says, do you know enough about students to teach them? And the reality of the situation is that 85% of the teachers who are teaching African American and minority students are white women. And so,
my goodness, let me see that. 85% of the teachers who are teaching African American and Latina children are white females?
Are white females. And that's the reality of the situation.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Now, the color thing is not as disturbing as the culture thing.
Right.
Because we know that white people are not a monolithic group.
Right.
There are all kinds of
Absolutely.
From different experiences. So, is there any data regarding the cultural backgrounds of many of these teachers?
Well, not that I can per se. You just got white, black, Hispanic, and so that's the data that you're looking at. But it's about actually having a culturally relevant pedagogy that teachers can actually, be able to deliver with some type of, confidence and be able to connect. And because that's really what it's about. It's about a connecting piece. And so that's another piece of the work that I do is around transformation, because sometimes you're doing things and you don't realize that you're doing things. You're not really aware of what it is that you believe.
Okay.
And so your actions are coming from somewhere.
Okay.
And so what it is the work that I try to do in regards to transformation is help you to see why you do what you do.
For the teacher.
Absolutely.
And what are you finding?
Well, a lot of times people don't know. You know, you go and you just do things, and you get into this operation mode where you're just doing things over and over and over, but you're not really understanding why you do it. You know, you go to the gym because you believe something, or you don't eat meat because you believe something.
Right.
So out of all of your actions, there's a belief system that is pushing that are pushing those actions. And so when you're working with kids, whether you are aware of it or not, there's an underlying belief system there that is causing you to operate how you operate, and sometimes you're not even aware of it. And so,
my goodness, you do know what you're saying.
Absolutely.
That is troubling to me.
Well, that's kind of how people operate.
I agree.
It's not just an education.
That's why you have your psychology background.
Yeah, it's not just an education. It's in all relationships. You know, with the how you operate in marriage, and you know, mother to daughter, and there's a reason why you're doing it. Because sometimes you have these underlying beliefs which are guiding your actions that you're not even aware of. And so, what I kind of do when we do the professional development pieces, we kind of, you know, stop and ask some of those questions, and that's the thing that I set up. I say I don't have all the answers, but doggone it, I got some really good questions.
Oh my goodness! But it is the questioning.
It is, and it's about an internal look. It's about looking internally, and so some of the questions are asked is, you know, what do you believe about education? You know, what do you believe about parents? What do you believe about teachers? You know, how do you see your role? And it's about creating a culture that sustains ability, you know, and it's about the sustainment of it. And, you know, you can go in and you can change an environment kind of really quickly, but will it sustain?
Right.
And so that's...
Because if the teacher, who is basically the master in the classroom, has an underlying belief system that is perhaps degrading, perhaps, or has a perspective that says that these children can't succeed. I'm just doing the best I can, but really they don't have what it takes to succeed. Does that infiltrate the classroom environment?
Absolutely.
Do children pick that up?
Absolutely. I mean,
oh my God,
everything is energy.
Right.
You know,
I believe that.
Everything
I
is
absolutely
energy.
believe that.
And so that takes me to the work that I'm doing now. I'm actually now working on my doctorate, my PhD at the University of South Carolina.
Okay.
And,
well, congratulations. I'll shake your hands on that.
Thank you so much.
That is very good.
Yeah, seeking to be Dr. Wilkerson.
Okay.
But that's the gap in the 8 years.
I'll still call you El Kobie.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. But that's the gap that I've seen in professional development, is that there is no space for personal development. And my belief is that there cannot really be any effective professional development without personal development, because what you bring to the table is you.
Exactly.
And so what I believe that we've done a poor job in education is taking the time to actually develop the teachers and give them an opportunity to kind of pour it to themselves. There's a African proverb that says, be weary when a naked man offers you his shirt.
Ah, that's good.
And so
that's good.
The whole purpose of that analogy is that you cannot give what you do not have.
Right.
And so going back to the 4 components of the achievement: love, belief in students, knowledge of information, and the skills to teach. If you don't have love within yourself, you can't give it. And so what you do is you bring what you have. And so if you're disappointed in your life, and you're frustrated in your life, and you know, you're kind of irritated, and you have all of these things going on in your life, this is what you bring. These are the things that you bring. And so in my dissertation work, that's the piece that I'll be working on, is how do we effectively infuse a personal development piece into professional development, so that teachers become better people. Do we want you to be a better teacher? Of course, absolutely.
That's a given.
Yeah,
that's
but
a
at
given.
the end of the day, we just need you to be better. We want you to be a better mother. We want you to be a better sister, a better brother, a better husband.
Right.
We just need you to be better, because who you are, you bring to everything. And so if you're just better, of course you're going to be a better teacher. But I think there needs to be some intentionality in that environment where you're spending, 6 to 8, sometimes teachers are spending 9 to 10 hours a day. There needs to be some type of mechanism put there to kind of really help them be better thems.
That
overall.
that is a serious undertaking.
Yeah, but it's needed.
Oh, I could not agree with you more, because truthfully, if a person is not of good character,
Right.
I would think that somehow that would have to manifest in a classroom environment.
It shows up.
It's got to show up, because
shows up.
it's too intimate. When you're with children for long periods of time, the cracks have got to show.
They do.
Right?
They do.
Okay, because I'm not in that industry, but I would have to believe intuitively that if you are teaching, and little people are like little, bzzz, they pick up everything. And if you are really not a good person, they have to pick that up. And that would have to have a depressing impact on their learning, wouldn't you think?
Well, not just on them, but the whole environment. You know what I mean? And so it's not, like I said, it has an impact on the teacher that's next door. It has an impact on on the principal, administration, and all of that. And so it takes something, and the whole thing is people don't change because they just want to. There has to be a reason. They have to see a benefit.
So how do you incentivize a person that is a rat?
Well, I mean, you have to show them the benefit and how it impacts their life. It's that old analogy, no matter what people station that they're tuned into, they're all tuned into that, what is it, WIFM, and, what's in it for me.
What's in it for me?
And so people are always looking to that. And when you go about transformation, which is different than change,
it is.
It's completely different. You can't say you need to do this. Transformation isn't about doing anything. Transformation is about being something.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Can I quote that? Transformation is about being something. That's very important to me, because that's how I live my life, period. Which is, we must ever be present and ever aware and ever conscious of who we are and what we bring to our fellow mankind.
Right.
And it has to be positive. Has to be.
Well, it has to be, but in professional development, what we're trying to do is get teachers to do something.
Okay.
Tell
me more.
You need to do this, and you need to do this curriculum, and you need to teach this way. And while that is a piece of the puzzle, I think the bigger piece of the puzzle, when I come in, I always tell them, I come in peace.
Yes. There's no guns on me.
I come in peace,
Yes.
And my goal is to not have you do anything.
Okay.
My goal is to have you be something, and it's hard to be something that you've never seen.
My God. So when you say never seen, can you give me a how that plays out? What does that mean?
Well, that's it's one thing. The thing that I've learned in the past 7 or 8 years that I've been doing this is that something happens when a teacher sees not just good instruction happening, but good instruction happening with their kids.
Okay.
That's the model teaching piece. That's the power in it. It's one thing for you to see, go in and maybe even look and see and watch another teacher teach. Okay, yeah, you see the strategies that they're using, and you see what they're doing. But something happens when a teacher sees you being effective with their kids that they work with on a daily basis. It brings about a sense of it can be done, and it can be done with my kids, because I see it being done, because they own those kids,
Those are their children.
Those are their children.
Yes, literally.
And so it's one thing for you to go into another class and see a teacher be effective with their kids, and you expect that because they have a relationship and whatnot. But it does something. It does something to a teacher when they see, you know, it being done, quality instruction really being done, and connecting with their kids, and you know how you move around. It gives them a sense of hope, and it hopefully allows them to see something that they haven't done. And that's my thing, is that you'll learn more watching me teach, you know, a 45 to 60-minute lesson than you will ever learn from me standing up and telling you, you know, what you should do, you know, for 2.5 hour, 3 hour, you know, professional development, because there's going to be some things that I'm just going to do innately that I'm not even going to be aware of, because it's just what I do. But the power
and who
of that,
you are,
yeah, and who I am,
and who you are. That's
and so
important.
The piece of that, those two pieces together, make a powerful connection. You know, because when you put them together, you say, okay, now I hear it, now I see it. Because when I first started doing this, I got a lot of flack because, you know, it's love, you know, belief in students, and then you got knowledge of information and the skills to teach less. And those were given to me by a mentor of mine, Asa Hilliard, who passed, who was a professor down at Georgia State University. Phenomenal mind. He was a jewel to this planet. Very, very, very heavy impact in the work of around educating African American children. The world misses him, but he gave that to me. We were at a conference up in Canada, and he said, you know, the love, belief in student, those are the 4 components. You take that and you develop that. That is to be yours.
My goodness.
And so
so he sent you off with that.
He sent me off with that. So that is mine to develop and to share with the world. But love looks like something.
Love does look like something.
It sounds like something.
Yes.
It's measurable.
Yes.
You know, belief in students looks like something. It sounds like something. Knowledge of information, you know, and the skills to teach. So these components of achievement, and he said it's an all or nothing deal. So you can't have 3 out of the 4. But it goes back to the analogy. It's hard you cannot give. It's not hard. You cannot give what you do not have. And so in order to give love, you have to have it first yourself,
right?
And that belief in you first to give, you know, to give belief in students, and you know, you have to have the information to give, and you have to have the skills, and that's where oftentimes the skills, because teaching is an art. I
believe that. I was blessed to have some amazing teachers.
It's an art, it's a skill, and it's a craft, and it has to be developed, and it's a muscle, so you have to work it. And the beautiful thing about teaching is no 2 classes are ever the same.
Are you kidding?
No 2 classes are ever the same.
Is it the children or the teacher or both?
It's both.
My gosh.
Yeah, because you have a makeup of personalities, and so, you know, and skill sets. So no 2 classes are ever the same. And if you talk to any teacher who's been teaching any number of years, they'll tell you. You know, they'll tell you that
every day.
You know, well, and every year.
Oh my gosh.
You know, every year is, you know, you get a class and it's different. This class is different than that class, and you know, and so you know, to make up the personalities and all of that, and so that's why it's really about a giving of yourself and a connecting piece, and you know, the piece that I really work with teachers is. You know, some people say, well, you know, our students, do you know enough about the students to be able to teach them and reach them? And I said on the other side of the fence was, do they know enough about you to receive what it is that you have? Do they know who you are, and from the place that you speak of, you know, do they know about what it took, you know, for you to get there? Do they know about, you know, some of the trials and the tribulations that you've had? And so there's an exercise that I do with teachers, and it's called, you know, telling your story.
Well, tell me about that.
Well,
pretend I'm a teacher.
Well,
actually, I am a teacher. I teach about money.
Absolutely,
I am a teacher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
It's in my.
Of course, my audience is not little people.
No, well,
but that's
but
okay.
they're people.
But they're people.
They're people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And that's what I tell them. You know, all kids are smaller versions of us.
My goodness.
And so there's an exercise that we do, which has teachers. Well, middle schools. I'll tell you about one. I was working with a school out in Kansas City, Kansas, Northwest Middle School, where the principal is Dr. Donnie Mitchell. And we were out there doing some phenomenal work. He's a phenomenal principal.
In Kansas City.
In Kansas City.
My goodness.
And great staff out there. And so what we were doing is an exercise like I said, called telling your story. And then in the professional developments I use, I use music, I use, video clips, and this particular one, I use a clip from the story Rango. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Rango. And
Yeah.
so, with the little lizard, and,
Yes.
he's acting and
Yes.
whatnot. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, Rango is a lizard, and he has this thing where he's trying to be a lot of things. He's an actor.
Yeah, he's got some challenges.
Yeah, he's definitely got some challenges. And
Yeah.
so he's making up all these stories. But the piece that we work on is how do you tell your story so that your students really see you as human. They see that you bleed and that you hurt, and because contrary to popular belief, students will hold you in high regard, that you can do no wrong. And so it's important that they see that you may be a teacher, but you might have had some struggles with education. And so one of the things we do in exercise is, these are middle school students and teachers.
And that would be what grades?
6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Okay, all right. That's an interesting period.
Yeah, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And so I had them do an exercise where I actually had them write a letter to their 13-year-old self, for those in 6th grade and those in 7th grade. And what would you have told yourself? What would be an advice that you would give now if you could go back, to your 12 or 13 or 14-year-old self? What would be that advice that you would give to them?
So
to
you
yourself.
ask them, to themselves.
To themselves.
Okay, they write a letter to themselves,
To their
say
13-year-old self.
to their 13-year-old, and give that person advice.
And then they read that to their students.
My goodness. And how is that received?
Oh, it's received really well. It's good on both ends.
Okay.
Because what it does is it causes teachers to actually go back and look inward and reflect, to see themselves as a 12 or 13-year-old or 14-year-old, for these teachers who are middle school teachers, to see themselves then. But it also connects them to a greater connection to these kids, because they start to think like, okay, well, I was 12, I was 13, I was 14-year-old once. But at the same time, then it gives the students an opportunity to look into the teachers, into their lives, and gives them the students to actually see the teacher opening up, because there's something.
And becoming more transparent, wouldn't you say?
Exactly, absolutely.
Isn't there a danger in that, though? If you are trying to establish boundaries, and the minute you tell them at 12 years old I was crazy, and didn't know my head from my feet, isn't there some level of risk in crossing those boundaries?
Absolutely. But there's risk in everything that we do.
I so agree.
But the reward is far worth
Okay.
it. Because what it does is it allows you to connect.
Okay.
And there's an old adage that, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
My goodness.
Yeah, they
Let me
don't
say
care.
that again. Students don't
Care how much
how much you know
until
they know how much you care.
And that's all people.
Actually,
That's all people.
That's the truth.
Yeah, and so there is like I said, going back to the everything is energy. People feel when you're authentic.
Yes. Yes.
But the flip side of that is they feel when you're not.
Right. Right. Right.
They feel when you're not.
Right.
So when somebody's being genuine and authentic, and then when they're not. And so when teachers are being real and authentic, first with themselves,
Okay.
and then with students, it creates a bond there where they're able to now hear what it is that you have to teach them, and they know that it's coming from a genuine and a sincere place. And so that creates a community, because when they see that you're willing to be transparent, then they're willing to do the same. And so it's about teaching of social skills, but more importantly, it goes back to that creating a community of that sustains achievement. You have to create that community, and part of creating is knowing the needs, the wants, the hurts, the pains, of the community that you're a part of, and knowing what each person in the community is bringing to the table.
Well, you know what? This is so awesome, this conversation, because I am deeply concerned and troubled, and that's why I just have such an affection for you and your vision. And the reason I'm concerned and troubled is because young people are having to deal with incredible things outside of school, with their communities, with their parents, with the family structure dissipating before our very eyes, the loss of any kind of religion and connectivity spiritually to ground them. And now you're talking about digging into teachers' heads and trying to make them evolve into the great people they are. Incidentally, I think teachers are the most underpaid people of all professions.
Absolutely.
I absolutely, and I know there are going to be some that say, that's just not true, they get vacation. I said, they don't get vacation, they got to do continuing ed, they got to use summer to learn.
Right.
But the fact that they have the power to take a child from a person who only sees from afar a future with their name on it to actually becoming that human being. And I can just tell you myself, I have been so blessed with incredible teachers from first grade on in a segregated school. They were desegging, and I was the first little black girl in a Kentucky school, and my teacher was quite white, and all my other classmates were quite white. And I remember feeling so odd, and I remember that teacher coming to me, coming down to my level and hugging me and telling me, you are so brilliant. She didn't say smart, she said brilliant. And I believed her.
That's the love.
I believed her. And the rest is history. But that little bitty encounter with a 5-year-old little girl, little black girl with nappy hair in an all-white school that was so scared. And yet that teacher, young white woman, bent down in front of all of my peers and said what she said and gave me a hug. And that just set my world on such a different path. So I support and believe in what you're trying to do. What do you see as the most significant crisis facing education right now? What do you see?
Wow. How much time we got?
Ah, man. Hey, we already know, but you're the expert.
There's a lot of things that are facing education. Funding, of course, legislative policies that are not designed in the best interests of students nor teachers. It varies from state to state, but I believe that until we make preschool mandatory for all children, we're still going to have the gaps that we have in education.
It does start in preschool?
Well, you have states where kindergarten is not even mandatory. So can you imagine, as a first grade teacher, you have kid A,
okay,
who went to preschool for 2 years.
Okay.
Then they went to kindergarten, for 1 year, and now they're in first grade. And then you got student B, who has not been to preschool, has not been to kindergarten, and is also in first grade.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah. So you
That's
have
a problem.
you have this gap.
Okay.
Which is they refer to as the achievement gap. You have this gap that you have this kid who has 3 years of education starting with this kid who has 0.
Okay.
And there's states that don't even make kindergarten mandatory. So, I think until we get preschool mandatory, there's states that, preschool is not mandatory at all.
Well, what about parents that would argue I can best educate my own child because this whole homeschooling that is so much a part of the American culture today. It didn't exist when I was coming up, but it is so much a part of parents feel that they can best teach their child. They don't want their child in a, quote, institutional setting.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, you know, as a parent, you are missioned with doing what you feel is best for your kids.
Right.
But my whole thing is that you take, you know, if your kid is sick, you take them to a professional. You know, when your car's messed up, you take it to a professional who's a mechanic. And my thing is that people see, well, I can teach them to read, and you know, I can teach them to do math, but there is something to be said in the training, you know, and going to school. And like I said, it's how to teach. It's not so much what you're teaching, okay? You teach, and teachers make a difference. And that's the thing, is that you can have somebody, you can give them addition problems, and then give them addition problems, and give them two teachers, but the way the teacher teach and how the teacher teach is going to make all the difference in the world. And do you have the skill set to be able to kind of relate it so that it makes sense, and then they can connect it to other things? And so down in Georgia, I'm in Atlanta, but north of Atlanta, they have what they call the Platinum Triangle, which is up it's not Norcross, but you go right up 400, and they call it the Platinum Triangle. And in that Platinum Triangle, there's more homeschool kids, I believe, in that part of the state, maybe that country, than anywhere else. It's something, I think, almost 50% of the kids in that area are homeschooled. But parents, if they feel like they have, and you got to have the right curriculum and all of that stuff. And I mean, I guess there is a space for it. Like I said, as a parent, you have to do what you feel is best. But being mindful of the fact that you want the best, I would definitely, you know, depending on the background of each parent, you know, you want to take them to a professional. So I'm definitely pro public schools. You know, you have these things with charter schools, and the research states that, you know, says that there really isn't a big difference. And the thing about public schools is they're going to get a more diverse education, because public schools accept everybody. Charter schools can say, we don't want you.
Right.
You know, we want to just take the best of the best.
Right.
And I think, you know, everybody has their opinions about that. But I think when you put kids in an environment that has not just diverse in population, but also diverse in skill set, diverse in abilities, I think it gives and lends something to what people glean from that about dealing with people with differences. And some things you just can't be taught; they have to be learned. And that experience of a public school education really kind of supports that.
Well, we both have to be honest. We both went to Walnut Hills High School.
Absolutely.
Yay,
yes,
Eagles!
Eagles.
Yay! And Walnut Hills was again named by
top 100, number one in Ohio.
Number one school in Ohio. That was a public school.
Absolutely,
is a public school.
Is a public school.
Everybody, my God, Walnut Hills High School was harder than college for me.
Yeah, it was.
Just the pressure, the stress, the diversity, the energy. All of those things.
Yes.
And so I do support public education. I feel that makes this country incredibly distinct.
It does.
In terms of the ability to cross-mesh with so many different people. But I want to shift for a minute, because really, why I wanted you on this show is you write books.
I do.
And these are great books for children. And of course, I want to show the audience, this is one book called Fred and Mary. I love this book. Written by Kobie Wilkerson and illustrated by Aaron J. Ratzloff, who does an amazing job. And can you just quickly give us the story and the plot, and can people buy this book?
Absolutely.
I love this book. I mean, I just love your writing style. It was just, here it is. But despite all of this, Fred was happy anyway. He went about his business, not caring what people had to say. They talked about his clothes and his beat-up shoes, but none of these things gave Fred the blues.
That's
That
right.
is so good.
Well, yeah, whatever they say, he just always replied, "You can't talk about my hair," and wink his eye. Yeah.
Got this. Gosh, he can't talk about my hair. I mean, the illustrations are so great, and the value sets. Where can people get this book?
You can go
And a
to
DVD and CD inside.
Yeah, we have a DVD and a CD inside.
This is so
Fred and
great.
Mary was this was my first book.
Okay.
And you know, there's some of the illustrations.
Yeah,
There's
I love
Fred.
it with the teeth. He's got
Yeah.
these little horsey teeth, because you know when we're young we have bucky teeth.
Yeah, Fred's got some issues. You know,
Fred does.
He's got some problems, and
Yeah.
we have it here right there. That is the that's a picture of Fred right there.
Yes.
He's got some issues there with his you know, his teeth and his hygiene. You know, Fred, all Fred knew about was his hair.
Yes.
You know, other aspects of hygiene, I don't think he too much cared. His teeth
Yeah.
were black and his breath had smelled, and we won't even discuss his skin and his nails. You know.
Love it. I love it. Do you ever do storytelling and reading?
Absolutely, that is a piece of the work I do. I do a storytelling piece with the music and storytelling as well.
Oh my gosh.
And so, along with you know, the consulting piece and the model teaching piece, I do music and storytelling. I have a storytelling CD that'll be out with the Three Little Pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, Little Old Lady That Swallowed a Fly, and
Do not say an old lady swallowed a fly. I know
Yes.
little people love
they
that.
love
Their
it.
imaginations are so vivid.
Yes.
I mean, they're so vivid. Then I saw this, got married, and the priest has a little clothespin on his nose because Fred smells so bad.
Yeah, he got hooked up with Mary, and Mary has some issues too. Now, you know, Mary was cute, and you know, she had lots of hair on her head.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, she walked up to Fred, and to Fred she said, I really like the hair on your head. You know. And so Fred was shocked that she had recognized, but
Then she had hairy arms and hairy legs.
She had some hairy arms and hairy legs. Yeah, she was cute, but she was a tad bit hairy as well.
Yes.
You know.
This is so amazing. And the dog on the side barking.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just so much fun. I love this book, but let's talk about this, my favorite all-time book. This is a book I really feel you're going to be written up in history. And I say that. I've met and dealt with and interviewed many people over the course of my life, but I must tell you, this book called Queen Infinity, and I know it's in its
Yes, Queen
yeah.
Infinity. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
actually what
Yeah.
they call the blue line copy. The books are literally being printed as we speak.
Goodness gracious.
So we will actually have the actual copies of the book toward the end of this month. But Queen Infinity is a wonderful story about literacy and leadership.
Wow.
It's about a little girl who's the queen of Zizaman B.
Zizaman B. Where did you
Zizaman
come up
B.
with that name?
And so it just came to me. So Zizaman B is a made-up land, but you know, the story starts off. It says, once upon a time in the land of Zizaman B lived the prettiest queen of all, and her name was Infinity. And some folks wonder why they called her that, because she grew pretty every day. Imagine that. And along with her beauty, her knowledge and wisdom grew too. And how did, for sure, no one really knew. But we know this is a fact, and it's true to be. She had the largest library that you ever did see. And some speculate and others say that she read a book, and sometimes two, every single day. And so every day at noon is Zizaman B. Everyone told them there's
I
Zizabox.
love this little girl though with her glasses. Where's the
There you
pictures?
go. So there's
her favorite place, which is the library,
And then we have
and all the people
the
in her.
Zizabox.
Yeah, the
Zizabox
Zizabox
shop. And so, but here's
Here's
the queen.
Look at the queen
There's the queen. So
with her round glasses and her. Look at her hairdo.
yeah. So and then she has her. She's trying to. You know, everybody in her land loves reading. You know, so they think that she's a wonderful queen.
Yes.
She does so great by her people.
And I look at the diversity of people in her kingdom.
Absolutely.
And the little baby laughing from his belly. That's just how children laugh, too.
Yeah.
They just giggle and just do it. Oh, my goodness.
So she has an evil uncle, and his name is King
Arrogant.
Arrogant. And so, you know, King Arrogant, you know, he wasn't very tall, but you know what else? His brain was small. You know, but see, the spirit of reading was the exact opposite in his land. See, King Arrogant hated reading so much that he burned every book that he ever read or touched. Now, between me and you, that sounds really bad, but he's only read one book in his life, and two's all he's ever had. You know.
Oh, so he sounds like he's got issues.
Yeah, so he stand up and say, "You all listen to me. I'm the smartest man that could ever be. I know the whole alphabet from A to P."
And then Miss Queen Infinity said,
"Yeah, what Your Highness didn't know is the alphabet ended in Z."
Where can people get this book?
Queen Infinity will actually be available. We'll
I
have it,
love this girl. Let's look at this picture. Can I get a close-up of this little girl? This little girl is absolutely amazing. Queen Infinity. Yeah, let me do that again. Just look at her reading her book. Yes, with her big round glasses and her absolutely amazing braided pony-topped hair.
Yeah, you'll be able to get them at booksbykobie.com, but what we're going to be doing with this is actually putting it on Kickstarter.com.
Kickstarter.com.
Kickstarter.com, and so you can actually go and support and pre-order the book before it actually gets here. And so in about a week, you'll be able to go to Kickstarter.com.
Okay,
and, look for
Kickstarter.com.
Look for Queen Infinity and go ahead and pre-order and support this wonderful project.
I must have my own copy, and you must sign it.
Absolutely.
Because this book is headed to major awards.
Well, let me show you what's so powerful about this book as well, is that in the back of the book, there is an appendix. There's an appendix of golden information here. And so we have all the literary genre, literary devices.
I saw the numbers. I saw a periodic table in here.
Yes, there's a periodic table
I couldn't
right there.
believe that.
And so we have the President
I mean,
of the United States.
that's basic science. And
Absolutely.
then social. That's amazing.
And so once again, a teacher, you know, I'm writing a book for the perspective of a teacher, so a teacher can actually use this, you know, and it goes across
part of learning.
And it goes across all content areas. So
this is
phenomenal
so amazing.
Story.
I love this girl.
You know, to own their lives. Students to own their life, and talking to students about real leadership.
This is, I tell you, when you introduced me to Queen Infinity, I just thought of all kinds of people, relatives, children, friends, grandparents, just church people. Everybody needs this book because it is so important that our children be affirmed to greatness.
Absolutely.
This, I believe, is a God destiny, that there's no such thing as a mistake. Every child is purposed, and every child has the right to excel in whatever gifts bestowed upon them before they were even born. And so what you are doing, I feel, is so ahead of the curve. And I will just say with great pride that I am delighted to have been involved with you in my money game, money rules piece, to begin to educate young people about money and wealth and understanding how all of these things work together.
Yes.
I am so concerned about that because the message that so many of them get in their home life and in the life called outside of school is that they can't be anything.
Right.
And that and that's not true, and that they cannot be leaders and own companies and own islands and own assets. And yet as children, the leaders of the world start teaching their children very early that their children are going to run things and are going to reign over things and are going to have only the best.
Right.
They never teach in terms of mediocrity. That's what I've learned over 36 years of working with wealth. They teach their children that it is your rightful inheritance and entitlement to be wealthy, to be successful, to have all of the good things. And not that I discredit things that are not good. But I do feel that it would be very, very helpful if our children began to have the experience of defining their own life purpose.
Right.
And then being surrounded by adults and loving teachers who were excited about the outcome of their youthful decisions.
Right.
Kobie, as a child, I made a decision, two things. I wanted to be a scientist. Oh yeah, because I loved flowers and plants, and much to my mother's chagrin, I loved rats, white ones, and I was always doing stuff. And I loved math. I loved chemistry. I loved those things. And to find myself at this point in my life actually doing exactly what I dreamt about and did, I'm doing it. And so my life is very full because I really believe that it is an intentional, and that with intention comes fulfillment.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. Well, I just wanted to thank you. We only have a few minutes left. Are there any snippets that you'd like to share with my viewers today that you think they need to begin to apply in their own lives with children that can help a child to make that leap to the top?
It doesn't matter how old your child is. I think the best thing that you can do is actually read, with children, and read with families, and actually sit down and actually take the time to actually bond as a family around books, because everything that you want you can read about. Whatever it is that you need, you can find it in a book.
Okay.
And so, getting them and exposing them to whatever opportunities, listening to what it is that they want to be, find a book about it, sit around and read about it. But especially your little ones, make sure you're taking the time to read with them.
So reading does work.
Absolutely.
It allows their imagination.
Exposure. It's an exposure.
Okay.
And it can happen through books.
Taking them to the library?
Great. Taking them to the library, taking them to, Barnes and Nobles. Even if you can't, like I said, afford to buy the books, go around and have them look at them and see them.
Yes.
What's good. Just the exposure and getting them, because that's the thing, is whatever you want, you can read about it. And
that is so exciting.
You can read about it.
The imagination, the power of the imagination. Well, viewers, this has been an awesome experience for me to have a gentleman that I have to call a giant, an emerging giant in the field of education. And he loves children, and so do I. And I just want to thank all of you for allowing us into your homes and into your hearts, hopefully, during this past hour, where we've talked about the challenges in education, a little bit about what Mr. Wilkerson is doing. Please keep your eyes on this amazing book, Queen Infinity. Yes.
Yeah, booksbykobie.com.
Booksbykobie.com.
K-O-B-I-E.
And K-O-B-I-E. Booksbykobie.com. And again, we wish him only the best as he continues his journey to success. And incidentally, he's already a success, because he is doing exactly what he has been purposed to do. And so I want to thank all of you for listening in and viewing. And I appreciate you being a part of my world on today's segment of The Power of Money with Michelle Graves, your host. You take care, and God bless.